I spent years teaching thousands of people how to build wealth online. The horrifying truth? I am a complete fraud, secretly choking on $132,416 of catastrophic debt. What you are about to witness isn't a budgeting video. It's a live, brutal autopsy of my ruined life. Look closely at the screen. You are staring at the hands of a coward. For 15 agonizing years, these hands have swiped, tapped, and blindly signed away a future that has not even arrived yet. I am sitting here today, stripped of my identity, a faceless phantom with no identifiable markers, no location, and no name you would recognize. You can call me Jane, though the name is just another shield. Why the absolute anonymity? Because the reality I am about to bleed onto this blank page is a financial blood clot of such catastrophic proportions that the sheer, blinding shame of it would incinerate my professional life and sever every personal tie I have left in this world. To those of you who have stumbled into this dark, suffocating corner of the internet, @MoneyGlowUp02 welcomes you to a reality most people would rather take to their graves than film. Before I pull the curtain back on this waking nightmare, I need to ask you for a favor. If you have the stomach for brutal, unfiltered honesty and want to witness the anatomy of a real financial collapse, please hit the subscribe button right now. Your support is the only thing giving this channel the oxygen it needs to survive, and it gives me the desperate motivation I need to keep producing these harrowing confessions in the future. For months, I ran a meticulously curated facade, an Instagram account called Down with Debts. I preached accountability to strangers while I was secretly choking on my own lies. Eventually, the guilt turned it into a graveyard. I ghosted my followers, I abandoned my fragile budget, and most lethally, I divorced myself from my own reality. I stopped opening the ominous envelopes that piled up in the mail. I shoved them deep into a heavy oak drawer, naive enough to believe that if I did not look at the numbers, they could not bankrupt my soul. I let the accrued interest silently and aggressively metastasize in the dark. But ignorance is not a coping mechanism. It is a terminal diagnosis. Today, the margin call on my existence has officially arrived. The paper net worth of my life is not just in the red, it is a gaping, inescapable black hole. What you are witnessing right now is not some trendy, aesthetic budgeting vlog where I playfully cut out my morning coffee. This is a surgical extraction of a rotting truth. This is the agonizing act of sawing off a limb to stop the infection from reaching my heart. Secrecy is the very oxygen that debt breathes to survive, and by writing these numbers down for the world to judge, I am violently cutting off its air supply. To finally suffocate this parasite, I have to drag every single digit out of that heavy oak drawer and force myself to look at the math that is actively destroying my life. The grand total? A figure that physically makes my throat close up and my hands tremble when I try to speak it aloud, is $132,416. This is not a mortgage on a beautiful home. This is not a tangible asset I can live in, rent out, or sell. This is the accumulated ghost of 15 years of living an absolute lie. Let me dissect the carcass for you so you can see exactly how the rot set in. $54,000 of this nightmare sits on 5 different credit cards: Chase, American Express, Capital One, all of them maxed to their absolute limits, vibrating with an average annual percentage rate of 24%. I am paying over $1,200 a month just in interest, a massive chunk of my hard-earned salary incinerated every 30 days just for the privilege of keeping the debt alive without making a single dent in the principal. Then comes the student loans, originally $30,000 for a liberal arts degree I barely use, mutated by years of aggressive forbearance, deferment, and deliberate ignorance into a monstrous $63,000. Finally, there is the personal loan. $15,000 I took out 3 years ago to responsibly consolidate my credit cards into one manageable monthly payment. I swore to myself with tears in my eyes that I would never touch those plastic cards again once their balances read zero. It took exactly 4 months for the financial amnesia to set in, and now I have the massive consolidation loan sitting right on top of the newly maxed out credit cards. Seeing these numbers written down in black ink on a bright white screen is a violent, necessary shock to my system. It strips away the comforting delusion that I am just a little behind on my bills. The math does not care about my intentions, my childhood trauma, or my excuses. It simply stares back at me as a mathematical proof of my absolute failure to manage my own existence.
These staggering numbers did not materialize overnight in some catastrophic stroke of bad luck.
They were meticulously built, brick by brick, through 1,000 tiny, cowardly compromises. When I look back at how this infection started, I see a terrified 20-something who desperately believed that money was a magic wand capable of masking profound insecurities. My descent into this black hole was not fueled by purchasing yachts, designer handbags, or going on reckless gambling sprees in Las Vegas. It was a mundane, insidious, and incredibly boring lifestyle creep. It was ordering expensive takeout because I had a hard day at work and felt I emotionally deserved a reward. It was putting a cross-country flight on a credit card to attend a friend's destination wedding because admitting I could not afford it felt like a public declaration of my worthlessness. I started bridging the ever-widening gap between my mediocre income and the life I thought I was supposed to be living with borrowed money. Every time I swiped a card, I was purchasing a temporary hit of dopamine to numb the creeping realization that I was falling severely behind my peers. Eventually, the emergency fund I never fully funded was entirely replaced by a revolving line of credit. Car repairs, unexpected dental work, a broken laptop, everything became an urgent crisis financed at 20% interest. The deepest irony of this entire tragedy is that the more debt I accumulated, the more money I spent to soothe the suffocating anxiety of being in debt. It is a psychological trap meticulously designed by financial institutions to prey on human shame. I consistently convinced myself that next month would be different, that the next promotion or annual bonus would magically wipe the slate clean and give me a fresh start. But the promotions came and went, and my spending simply expanded to swallow the new income whole, leaving me deeper in the hole with every passing year. Even as I ran my fake Instagram account preaching financial literacy, I was privately using retail therapy to cope with the imposter syndrome it caused, feeding the exact monster I was pretending to slay. Yet the most devastating cost of this financial avalanche is not the exorbitant interest I am bleeding every month, but the complete and utter erosion of the person I used to be. The mental toll of carrying a six-figure secret is a physical weight that crushes my chest the moment I open my eyes every morning, stealing my breath before my feet even hit the floor. I live in a perpetual state of high alert, my nervous system constantly bracing for a catastrophic impact that has already happened. I jump out of my skin when my phone rings, terrified it is a vicious collections agency, even though I have meticulously memorized their area codes to avoid them. I have severely alienated myself from the people I love most in this world to protect this ugly truth. I cannot begin to count the number of dinners, birthdays, and weekend trips I have dodged with elaborately constructed lies about being too busy at work or feeling under the weather. The pathetic truth is, I cannot afford a $20 cocktail. and I cannot bear the agonizing fear that my friends will see through my carefully constructed facade and realize I am a total fraud. This secrecy has bred a profound, agonizing loneliness that isolates me even when I am standing in a crowded room. When you intentionally hide the biggest part of your daily struggle from the world, you essentially stop being present in your own life. You smile at jokes you do not actually hear, and you stare blankly at spreadsheets at work while your brain frantically calculates which utility bill you can float for another 2 weeks without triggering a late fee or a shutoff notice. My self-esteem has been entirely liquidated by this process. I look in the bathroom mirror and I do not see a capable, independent adult. I see a frightened child masquerading in grown-up clothes, waiting for the inevitable moment the authorities arrive to expose the charade. The debt has stolen my peace, my focus, my sleep, and my capacity to dream about a future, because my entire existence is exclusively consumed by paying for the mistakes of my past. I can no longer survive as a hollow ghost haunting the wreckage of my own life, which means the only way out of this self-made purgatory is to walk straight through the fire. Today officially marks the violent death of my delusions. There is no wealthy relative coming to save me, no winning lottery ticket, no magical cryptocurrency investment that will suddenly erase $132,000 of gross negligence. The cure for this disease is going to be brutal, exhausting, entirely unglamorous, and it is entirely on my shoulders. I have already spent this morning physically cutting every credit card I own into jagged plastic shards and freezing my credit reports with all 3 bureaus to ensure I cannot open new lines of temptation in a moment of weakness. I am currently negotiating a second job working overnight shifts at a local logistics warehouse, stripping away every ounce of my professional pride to stack cardboard boxes for $15 an hour, because every single cent I earn is now a vital weapon for my survival. I am not going to sit here and neatly preach to you about the mathematical differences between the debt snowball versus the debt avalanche methods. I am simply going to bleed every extra dollar I can manifest onto the highest interest accounts until they are dead and buried. This channel is no longer a polished platform for aesthetic budgeting or fake financial wisdom. It is a raw, unedited, and highly uncomfortable autopsy of my financial rehabilitation. I will be posting my actual income, my humiliating bare-bones expenses, and my painfully slow progress every single week without a filter. I am deeply terrified. I am bone-tired, and I am desperately asking you to hold me accountable to this screen. If you are quietly drowning in the dark like I am, suffocating under the weight of your own secret statements, let this be the signal fire that proves you are not alone in the abyss. Hit the subscribe button, leave a comment telling me the reality of your own numbers, and watch me claw my way out of this early grave, one agonizing dollar at a time. The journey chronicled across these sections is a brutal, yet deeply necessary confrontation with the reality of accumulating $132,416 in consumer and student debt. It exposes the anatomy of financial ruin not as a single catastrophic event, but as a series of small, emotionally driven compromises, a mundane lifestyle creep fueled by insecurity and the false comfort of borrowed dopamine. What began as a desperate attempt to keep up appearances and soothe daily stress morphed into a psychological prison, leading to profound isolation, crippling anxiety, and a complete loss of self-worth. The author hid behind a carefully constructed facade, even running a fake financial literacy account while privately drowning in retail therapy. However, the turning point arrives with the absolute destruction of these delusions. By physically cutting up credit cards, freezing credit reports, and taking a humbling overnight warehouse job, the author shifts from a passive victim of their own making to an active warrior fighting for survival. This narrative strips away the glamorous illusion of debt-financed lives and replaces it with the unvarnished, exhausting reality of financial rehabilitation.
It serves as both a raw confession and a public vow of accountability, transforming a personal nightmare into a shared signal fire for anyone else suffocating in secret financial shame. The lesson: true financial and emotional freedom begins with brutal honesty. Avoiding reality does not protect you. It only compounds the interest on both your financial debt and your psychological burden. Debt is rarely just a math problem. It is often an emotional trap where money is used to mask deep-seated insecurities, purchasing temporary relief at the severe cost of your future peace and authentic identity. Stop hiding from your numbers. Sit down today, open every statement, and calculate your exact total debt or net worth, no matter how terrifying the final number may be. Break the cycle of lifestyle creep by actively disconnecting your self-worth from material possessions, expensive outings, and social media expectations. If you are struggling, break the secrecy and confide in someone you trust, rather than suffering in isolation. Before making any non-essential purchase, force a 24-hour pause and ask yourself, am I buying this because I need it, or am I just buying a temporary hit of dopamine to numb my stress? Choose accountability over pride, knowing that taking small, humbling steps forward is far more honorable than maintaining an expensive lie. Question: what is one small, everyday habit you have changed, or want to change, to stop spending money on things you don't actually need? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section below. We would love to read your perspective so our community can learn from and support one another. If you found this raw honesty helpful and want to follow this real, unfiltered journey out of debt, please hit the subscribe button. Your support means everything and gives this channel the motivation to keep producing authentic, impactful content.